Hello, I'm Dr. Pound. I am the Clerkship Director at Case Western University Hospitals. We're going to talk about your favorite topic, the personal statement. I'm sure you're all excited. So how many of you have a first draft already? Oh, quite a bit of you. Okay, you guys are the gunners of the group, just so you know. How many of you have like thoughts in your head, but it's kind of nebulous, you kind of know where you're going, but okay, you guys are the worriers. It's all right. Many of you have no idea where to even start? Procrastinators, unite. It's all right. All right, so we're going to cover a little bit of everything for all three groups, okay? So never fear. We'll kind of get your fears calmed down here. We're going to break it down into what I call the 4 Ps of the personal statement. So your preparation, putting the pen to paper, proofreading, and then the pitfalls. Starting with your preparation, you need to start with some serious, deep self-reflection. Okay, how did you get here? Who are you? And more importantly, why emergency medicine? Unlike your personal statement to medical school, which is all about why you want to be a doctor, right? Because you want to help people. Okay. This one is why emergency medicine and how your entire life has led you to this point, even though you just realized it last week. That's okay. Why your entire life has led you to this point. Don't ignore any red flags that you may have. Everybody is going to see them, whether you like them or not. So it's okay, but be aware of them. Right? Take responsibility. So if it was a failed clerkship or a failed step exam, you know, understand why it happened or what was going on in your life that caused all this. How have you changed and grown? Everybody's looking for insight into what you've learned from this experience. We understand things happen. We want to know what you've changed to prevent it from happening again, or how you've grown from it and learned and moved on. Remember who your audience is, okay? These are ED physicians with ADD. So whether they had it before or they acquired it through their vast experience in emergency medicine. They read about 1,000+ personal statements per year, which means the first time they're looking at it, they are skimming it, right? Understand that and know that you want to make sure yours is coherent. Anything that sticks out with bad grammar stands out for the wrong reasons, right? So you want it to flow. They're looking for themes and coherency in the first read-through. They will read it again before interviews, you know, several times. So it's not like they won't read it. I don't want to discourage you. It is important. But know that the first pass, it's going to be skimmed, okay? So look for common themes, things like that. Logistics. You want it to be about a page, a 12-point font. Any longer than that, and remember your audience with ADD has already lost interest. So short to the point. Once you've actually got your ideas on what you're going to, you know, how you're going to prepare, get everything red flags in order, whatever else you need to address, you want to start actually putting your pen to paper. Sometimes you have to remember that your first draft is going to be the worst, and a lot of times when you're overwhelmed by just starting, it's okay to plan a horrible first draft and know that it will never see the light of day. Nobody else will read it, just you. Just get it out on paper, even if it's horrible. That's okay. A crappy first draft is worth more than a non-existing one. Sidney Harris was a journalist in Chicago. His very nicely put quote was, "Man's unique agony as a species consists in his perpetual conflict between the desire to stand out and the need to blend in." You, of course, want to be unique. You are who you are, and we love you for it. But at the same time, we want you to fit into the mold of emergency medicine, right? So stand out, but blend in with all the other applicants as well. It's kind of a hard problem to have. Sorry. So what do you write about? So for those of you who have no idea where to start, and your first drafts look like this, crumpled up paper, I'm going to give you a couple nice themes that are common. Meaningful patient interactions. A lot of people like to write about patients that they've seen that made something, or maybe they confirmed that emergency medicine was the way to go. This is the one that solidified why you chose emergency medicine. It's an easy topic to write about because you see patients in all your clerkships. So if you don't know where to start, this is an easy one to pick. Make sure that it's meaningful, not just a random patient you saw, but you want to make sure that it had meaning to you. Most commonly is the how I got from point A to point B. This is also more so for the non-traditional applicants, but anybody, right? How did you get here? Why emergency medicine? What steps did you take along the way, or distractions did you have until you decided that no, you were not going to be a national basketball player, but emergency medicine is the way to go? And then more importantly, write about what you love. This is very common for athletes or people who've had a lot of team activities in the past. But you want to pick something that you are passionate about, right? It's going to come through and it's going to be more meaningful. So write about what you love and relate that to emergency medicine. This picture is actually a Japanese garden on my undergraduate campus. In my personal statement, I wrote about working at a Japanese garden and how bamboo shoots were good in one place but not good in the other, and I had to discriminate between the two. You know, so relate it to something emergency medicine related. Pick something you love and talk about what you learned during that activity, whether that's teamwork, you know, support for your peers, whatever. I'm sure you learned something from your activities that you can apply to emergency medicine. Once you kind of have your first draft down, or second draft, third draft, you want to start obviously proofreading. Don't rely solely on spell check. Clearly, spell check works great for spelling, not so good for grammar, right? So be aware. Common proofreading tips would be to read backwards your personal statement line by line. You'll find that by reading one sentence at a time in non-context, you'll find the words that don't make sense or stick out. You'll also find things that you didn't realize were confusing when you're looking one line at a time. You want to read it out loud, especially if you have problems with commas, either over adding commas or too few commas. If you read it out loud where you naturally have a pause, you should have a comma there. So it'll actually help place your commas. You want to have a lot of other people read it, whether that's just advisors, so that they can give you feedback. Does it sound kind of like something that program directors would like to read? Close friends, does it sound like you, right? This is a personal statement about you, but if you've lost yourself in the personal statement and they read it and they're like, this doesn't even sound like you. I don't really know where you're going with this. You know, have somebody you know that's close, whether they're medical or not, your mom, you know, somebody read it. So they can tell you whether or not you sound genuine and your true voice. And then you want to pick whoever you know is the grammar police and have them read it, right? So have several people read it throughout the course. Punctuation saves lives, be aware, right? So there's a big difference between let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma, right? So make sure, again, commas are well placed. Finally, we'll cover the pitfalls of your personal statement. Again, you want to make it personal. It's about you, right? We want to know who you are, so make it personal to you. If you're going to use quotes, make sure they're meaningful to you, because you will be asked about the quote on every interview you have. So make sure it means something to you and that you didn't forget it immediately after you wrote it. And they're like, so what does this mean to you? You're like, what quote? I don't remember. Right, make sure it means something to you. You want to show, not tell. So when you're describing things, right, describe the scene. If you're talking about a patient encounter, you know, describe the room, the patient, etc. Don't just put a list of bullet points in there. You know, set the scene for people. Remain humble, even if your story is that you saved 20 people in the Amazon from a landslide, which is heroic as that is. Be humble, right? Maybe your role was really calling for help and other people did the bulk lifting, whatever. Be humble. We don't want to know that you were the sole person to save 20 people in a mine shaft. Maybe you were. That's fine. We're excited about it too, but come across as humble. You want to emphasize your learned skills. What did you learn from your previous experiences that are going to help you in emergency medicine? Maybe you're really organized. Maybe you're really good at team building. Maybe you're good at supporting your peers, whatever. You know, emphasize what you've learned from whatever you've done in the past. And then, of course, discuss any of your red flags. You can always do everything with style, right? I like to think of this picture as parking with style. But ultimately, your personal statement and your ERAS application, everything that you have free text where you can write, you want to do it with style. So there's a way to describe things, and then a way to describe things badly. If you follow anybody on Twitter, hashtag badly explaining your job is hilarious. So this is Dr. Merritt. He's a pediatric emergency medicine physician, and he describes his job as, after kids tell me where it hurts, I push on the part that hurts while asking if it hurts. So clearly, yes, he's doing that as an emergency physician, but hashtag badly explain your job. Right? So you're going to be describing your activities as well as yourself in this personal statement and your application. You want to explain things well. We have no idea what's active at your medical school, what the If it's the group that goes out teaching in the community, to like high school students, we don't know who they are or what they're doing. Describe it. If you've worked in a lab, I guarantee that we don't know what you're doing for your research. So make sure you describe it in lay terms that even somebody non-medical can understand. Okay? Don't badly explain anything. Explain nicely. You want to avoid acronyms. So we know obviously the big ones, SAEM, ASEP, AOA, that's fine. But some small groups within your medical school, we don't know the acronyms. So spell it out for us. We shouldn't have to guess. If we have to guess, we're stopped reading that and have moved on to the next thing. Okay, so be aware. Finally, for your hobbies, we love your hobbies. All right, so make sure you know exactly what you're writing. Include anything that you've been doing. We know that you probably don't have active hobbies while you're in medical school. That's okay. But you did something before you were in medical school, right? You had hobbies when you were in college or high school, whatever. So talk about it. We love to hear about it. We will most likely ask you on your interview about your hobbies, so be prepared to talk about them. If it's something that you haven't done since you were 5, I would not put that on there because we will ask you about it. And you're like, oh, I went like once skiing, but I'm a skier now. So be aware of that. Don't let that catch you up. But definitely we like to talk about your hobbies. The more hobbies you have, don't be shy to put them down. It's okay. We'd like to talk about them. And don't think that if you pick something obscure, no one will ask you, and you're like, nobody's going to know about this. Oh, guaranteed you will interview with the one guy who knows about raising rabbits, whatever, right? So make sure it's a hobby you actually know about and love or are passionate about. Even if you haven't done it while you're in med school, that's okay. We understand you're busy. We get it. So thank you. If you have any questions, if you want to send me your personal statements, I will be happy to read them and get back to you. But otherwise, good luck. You guys will be fine.
Any questions for Dr. Pound?
Oh. So there's several catchy intros, I guess. So anything that draws their attention in. Again, remember you're talking to a bunch of people with ADD. So if you're going to tell a story, start with something dramatic. If it's about a patient, I don't know, pick something like their withered toe under the blankets, caught my attention. I'm making this up, but something specific that will catch their eye. It's mind-boggling. So if you're talking about previous activities that you did, whether that's sports or something you love, pick a dramatic moment. It was the last pass before we won the national championship. If you're going to pick a quote, that's fine. Pick a quote. If you can pick a quote in another language that works, fine. Again, don't go overboard. Make it something meaningful to you. Does that help?
I'd say make it easy to follow too, and I would almost build off on your have other people read it thing. Hand it to people while they're watching the football game. Hand it to people while they're doing something else and see if it can hold them. Because I guarantee you program directors are reading these while they're listening to their administrative assistant talk about funding for graduation, or they're doing it while they're listening to a resident present patients. So make it easy and simple to read. Don't make them have to stop and go back and read a sentence again because they'll just quit.
And have someone read it that knows a little bit about you but maybe doesn't know your whole story, so that when they read it, if there's gaps, they pick up on them. So if there's something like, why did you talk about this? And you're like, oh, well, that's obvious that, X, Y, and Z. Have somebody who doesn't know your entire life story read it, a casual acquaintance, if you will.
When constructing the personal statement, do you feel like it's more important to sort of tell a coherent story or to get sort of as much of the resume, so to speak, out there on paper as possible?
So don't let it be your entire resume on paper, because that's what the rest of your application is for. And they're going to read that as well. So don't just let it be a reiteration of your resume. A coherent story is definitely going to be helpful. Again, we like stories, right? That's why we treat patients and we listen to them and their stories. So we like stories. But also, you want to make sure you have the salient points. It's okay if you need to address things that you have separate paragraphs that don't match with the rest of the story. That's okay. And it's okay to jump from topic to topic if you need to, as long as coherently it covers everything you need. But make sure that there's a theme to it somehow, or that even at the end you kind of address or have a summary point that brings back your original points. Anything else? All right, good luck, you guys.